Hey guys, it's been a long time. This is Angie, also known as The Light. And today I want to talk about dating a covert narcissist. Now, I'm not going to give you, like I always say, the textbook version of dating a covert narcissist and what to expect. I can only give you from my experience. Now, about 3 years ago, exactly 3 years ago, um, in 2014, I met a covert narcissist over Facebook. And I'm going to admit, majority of the narcissists that I have met, dating wise, I met through the internet. So please be very careful when you're doing online dating. Now, I don't online date anymore because of my experience. So I'm not trying to place fear into you, because some people meet great people on the internet. They end up getting married, having children. So I'm not putting that fear into you. But for me, I choose not to, because it's just too many. And it seems like narcissists are so attracted to me, basically. Anyway, so 3 years ago in 2014, I was in a Facebook group and singles were posting photos. And I saw this guy. I thought he was cute. So I clicked like on his photo. And I don't remember if he sent me a friend request or I sent him a friend request, but we ended up on each other's Facebook accounts. And we didn't inbox each other. It probably was maybe a month or two had went by before we even had a conversation in the inbox. And I liked the things that he was posting. I guess he liked things I was posting, and I was digging his personality that he was giving off. Who he pretended to be, basically. Anyway, so we ended up exchanging numbers in the messages, and we began to talk. And I would say our first couple of conversations were very long, like maybe 3 or 4 hours long on the phone, staying up late at night talking. And it was probably very quickly that we ended up meeting each other in person. And it was weird because I remember I invited him somewhere, but he said he was busy, he couldn't come. And I was at a friend's house, and it was very, very late. I think I had went like partying or something like that. And by the time I got back to my friend's house, it was literally maybe 5 o'clock in the morning, because I live in New York and clubs close at 4 a.m. So he texted me and was just like, I'm in the area that you're staying, won't you meet me? And I'm thinking in my head, like, should I really, like, I was already dressed, I did not lay down and go to sleep yet, so I was like, should I really, like, get up and just go meet this guy from the internet? And I did, but we met in public. I actually, like, met, like, at McDonald's or something like that. We met in McDonald's, and I'm gonna be real with you, I felt like he was eyeing me, like, not in a sexual way, but like watching me, watching my every move. And there was something very nerve-wracking about his personality in the beginning. Now that I think about it, it's not that he had this strong or thuggish or hood type of aura about him, because he really wasn't that kind of a guy. But it was just something off about his personality. But you know how, like, your spirit is telling you something, your intuition is telling you something, but you just don't really listen, basically. But anyway, so I guess I was just mesmerized by his physical or whatever. And we literally sat in that McDonald's for 4 hours and talked until I was like, I'm exhausted, I need to go home. He said he was tired too. He was, like, kind, he was gentle. His story, I feel like they have this story. They have to give you this story of, to make you feel sorry for them. And he told me the story about how his mom died in his arms on an Amtrak train. And I know, like, hearing this story, you're probably like, come on, like, Angie, you fell for that, I mean, it's very possible. But he said that, he only had his grandmother, his father was dead, his mother was dead, and it just so happened that my mom is deceased and my dad is deceased, and it was just like, did he make up this story because this is what I told him? To this day, I don't really know if the guy's mom is dead or alive. Anyway, but he claimed that his mom had like heart problems, and they took the train to North Carolina, and she basically had a heart attack on the train, and that's how she died, and how she died in his arms and all this things. So I was just like, oh, I can like empathize with him because my mom died, and that's how I guess he captured me pretty much. He was like a typical guy. I mean, he did work in corporate, but he also did music, and he rapped. Conscious rap. I don't know if you know what conscious rapping, but it's not talking about drugs and partying, and it's basically talking about political things and positive things, and nothing against the community and stuff like that. So I was really digging that. So he started to invite me to his shows where he would be performing, and it was impressive because he was actually really good at rapping. And so I immediately became like his biggest fan and his biggest supporter, and he was taking me to all his shows, and I was meeting all his friends, and I met his grandmother, and it happened really fast. And I remember the other day I was looking through an old cell phone, and I realized I only dated this guy for 6 months. I had tons and tons of photos of us as if we were together for like 10 years. And when you're with these narcissists, especially these covert narcissists, things just seem to just move super duper fast, And I became his biggest supporter, and I'm a poet, and at the time I was performing myself at different lounges and clubs and poetry events, and I realized, he's not supporting me. I'm going to all his shows, but he's not coming to my shows. So I said something about it. And I think this is where the narcissist, whether it's covert or overt, when you start to check them on their shit, or you start to talk back, that's kind of when they know whether or not they can keep you as supply. And I guess by this point, I already had dealt with other narcissists. I did not expect this guy to be a narcissist. I really didn't pick up that vibe from him at all. So I confronted him about it. I was just like, you know what? You're not the only one who's doing things. I have a regular job, and I'm doing poetry, and, you can come to my shows. And he was just like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to support you. He also had like an online magazine. So he was like, you know what? I want to put you in my magazine, but you have to write your own articles. So I'm thinking to myself, I mean, right there, that's another red flag. How do you have an online magazine and you tell me you want me to be featured in your magazine online, but I have to write my own article? Don't you write it, or whoever's working on your online magazine should write it? Anyway, me being silly, I write my own article, and yes, he does place my article online in his magazine. Anyway, that was something that kind of threw me off, and I was just like, how is that really doing anything? That's not doing. I did all the work. So finally I said, well, you know what, why don't you come to an open mic night where I'm going to be performing? And he was like, yeah, sure. So he came, and y'all are not going to believe what this guy did. Instead of letting it be about me, when I go to his shows, it's all about him and supporting him. Would you believe that he got up on the stage and did 2 songs at the open mic that he was supposed to be supporting me? It was supposed to be about me that night. And that's when I was just like, wait a minute. Something's really up with this guy. There's no way he's into me, because he's not putting me first at all. Never. Everything is all about him. So I was just like, I can't believe it. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my friend at the time. I don't even hang out with her. She was a narcissist too. I'm looking at her and she's looking at me like, what's that about? You know? So when I did finally, I ended up closing the show. I went up there, I did my thing, and afterwards, when we got in the car to go home, I was like, oh, what did you think about my poem? He was like, it was all right. It was cool. He gave, like, absolutely no feedback whatsoever. I mean, belittled me, basically. Belittled me. Didn't say it was good, didn't say it was bad. He was just like, oh, it was all right. It was cool. Like, whatever. I mean, just total asshole. So, excuse the noise in the background. I live in New York City. And that was probably like the huge indication that this guy, something's off with him. So, eventually, time was going by and he started to do that devaluation stage. He went from, oh, you're so beautiful to, why do you have to wear wigs? Why do you have to wear weaves? I was like, you met me wearing weaves. You met me wearing wigs. So he asked me not to wear it. So I didn't. I started wearing my real hair. Then he started saying like, oh, why do you have to, wear this or wear that? So I started changing my style to basically, suit him and what he wants, how he wants his woman to dress. And then, in the beginning, he was so affectionate. Like, we walk down the street, he would hold my hand. And this, that started to just fade. It'll just be like, yeah, hey, when we're speaking or we're sitting in a restaurant, he would just, like, look away. He wouldn't pay attention to me. Eventually, he wouldn't give me that respect. Like, if we were somewhere, he wouldn't, introduce me. Oh, this is so-and-so, He would never say, oh, this is my girlfriend or my woman or whoever, he'll just be like, oh, this is Angie, like it was like whatever to him basically. And then I started noticing like particular girls, the same kind of girls coming to his shows. And I was just like, And lo and behold, he's married now. And that was what's really crazy because I remember one of the girls that would come to the show is who he's married to now. So she was around the entire time that me and him were, dating or whatever. So after 6 months, I confronted him and I was just like, what's going on? Like, are we together or is this casual to you? And he was just like, you know what? I'm really not that into you and I don't want a girlfriend. And I was just like, wait a minute, hold up. I was just like, wait a minute, hold up. So what was the sense of dating me for 6 months, spending money on me, bringing me around your family and friends, asking me to do this and do that with you, and for you to tell me you don't want a girlfriend, you don't want to be with me? And he was just like, well, you know what, I'm sorry, but, that's my decision. Like, I don't want to be with you. But for some reason, we still kept, like, hanging out. Now, keep in mind, throughout this whole entire 6 months, guess how many times we had sex? 1 time. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a very spiritual person, and I don't see relationships all based on sex or whatever the case is. But, I don't know, a lot of narcissists, some of them don't even like sex at all, and I remember the one time that we did have sex. It wasn't great, and he made me feel like it was something dirty to do, basically. He made me feel as if oral sex was dirty. I asked him, did he want oral sex, and he was just like, ew, that's disgusting. And I was just like, okay, I've never heard a man say that oral sex was disgusting. It's very possible. I'm talking about me giving it to him, but for some reason he wanted to do it to me. I don't know. It was just very weird. He wasn't very sexual. He would want to make out, but he wouldn't like want to touch me, or he wouldn't really initiate sex, basically. It was just very, very strange. But I think because I liked him so much, I wasn't trying to force a man, sex onto a man. And it was something different. It was something new, because usually, what happens to a lot of us women when we're dating, we're so used to meeting a guy who wants sex, a lot of sex, and sex immediately. So I'm thinking, oh, this is such a breath of fresh air. This guy is not all over me. It's not just about sex. He's taking me here, he's taking me there, he's calling, he's giving me all this attention. And yeah, this is what they do. Another thing that he did that was just so weird and cultish, he was going to this group meeting. I don't know the name of it, but it was like a meeting where you pay this organization, like everyone gets together, you pay this organization and they help you like find yourself. And at the time, 3 years ago, I was more religious. I'm not religious anymore. I was still going to church. And I said to him, I don't want to join this group. It would cost like $1,000 to join this group. And he said, well, I'll pay half of it. So I went to this meeting to see how the group was. And it was just like you get in a circle and you hold each other's hands and you talk about like your daddy issues and stuff like that. And for me, I'm not judging anyone that did join this group. Maybe that's what helped you. But for me healing is I'm gonna reach for my creator. I'm gonna reach for God, my God. And I just didn't see what was the reason of paying almost $1,000 to sit in a circle telling people about my brokenness. And this is what he chose to do. So he got upset because I didn't want to join this cult, basically. And so the woman that he's married to now, I'm not gonna lie, she looks almost like a female version of him. And she did join that cult with him. And it took me a while to realize that this guy was a narcissist. Like, I just didn't get it. I was just like, oh, what did I do wrong? And why was he so into me in the beginning? Like, he made me feel that low. And I had been in horrible relationships in the past, but for some reason, I never saw this coming, because covert narcissists, they are like sweet ass pie, okay? You never actually see it coming. But when I think about it, they always drop these little hints. You're gonna know something. It's like, someone's not going to just be sweet and then all of a sudden have these spurts of evilness pop up. There's something up with that person, and those are your indications. And yes, you do get stuck and you wonder why doesn't this person want me? What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. They're off. Their personality is off. They're mentally off. It is not you. And just because somebody doesn't want you, someone doesn't desire you, doesn't mean that you're undesirable. There's somebody else out there who's healthy, who does not have a mental illness, who does not have emotional problems, who is going to find you and you can be with, So I'm not going to lie, I was really stuck. I'm healed now, 3 years later, and it took me a while to forgive him, because I'm not going to lie, I was like, I felt betrayed. I felt like I really wanted to hurt this guy. Like, I really wanted to hurt him for wasting my time. And I know 6 months isn't a lot of time, but when you're young and you're in your 30s and you want to get married and someone's lying to you and introducing you to friends and family, and they're portraying this image and they're acting like they're so into you, and then boom, 6 months later they're like, I don't want to be with you, and you know what, I don't love you. He even triangulated me with one of his exes. One of his exes would always comment like, oh, I love you like the sun, the moon, and the stars. And I would say, like, that kind of makes me uncomfortable, and he would say, well, she's one of my best friends, and if you can't be her best friend too, then maybe mean you shouldn't be together. And I'm like, what? And at the time, I had a best male friend. I said, well, how come you don't want to meet my best male friend? It was, everything was about him. And before we did part, I did explode on him, and I did tell him, you're very selfish. Everything is about you, and you have some serious issues. And the only thing he said was, really, 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 Angie, that's how you feel? Oh, okay. It didn't mean shit to him. He didn't care. And that's what you have to understand. These people are cold as ice. I don't know what he went through, what made him a narcissist, or how he grew up, or what the case is. I don't know nothing that's going on with his marriage now, whatever. I know he ended up marrying that girl very, very soon. I think he dated her for 6 months and they were married. Eventually I blocked him on my social media, and I don't know anything about him. I do still speak to one of his friends, but we never ever discuss him. But that was a relationship I never saw happening to me. I never saw coming. And sometimes you have to pay attention to that. I'm going to do a video about a covert female friend, covert narcissistic friend that I had. And this was recent. And you just never see it coming because they're so sweet. So don't just, you know, actually I appreciate the overt narcissists because they let you know from the beginning. You see all the signs, but don't always assume that someone's being sweet, that they're healthy and that they're really truly a friend or they're really into you. And honestly, it's sad to say, you have to get over it. Who you think they are, they're not. You know, they don't even know who they are. So you can't expect them to see your worth. Peace and blessings. I'm so sorry this video was long, but I hope this message will help you. I will have a video coming soon.